Welcome to the Salty Investors episode number 44. It is Friday, August the 18th, 2023. And how are you, Tim, on
Yeah,
this
got a
wonderful
bit of a
Friday?
cold, bit of a man cold, but trying to get
Yeah.
over it. What about yourself?
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely wonderful. Got over my man cold 2 weeks ago. I'm in peak fitness once again. So let's get on to the salt for the week. I see that the Green Socialist Australian Institute is out again, railing against stage 3 tax cuts. They've got a petition out. It's going to cost us X billion dollars, which is interesting because basically what they're campaigning against is that people who earned money shouldn't get to keep that money and the government should get to spend it instead, which brings up that old Thomas Sowell quote that he came up with decades ago that says, I've never understood why it's greed to want to keep the money you've earned, but it's not greed to want to take somebody else's money. But, that's the left for you. They want to take your money because they know how better to spend it than you do. But if you know anything about government, that's generally not the case.
Yeah, they want to run things like the Department of Transport and Post Office. They all run well, don't they? Let's set more of that, like we don't want the free enterprise to get involved in those sort of things. And yeah, I don't know.
But, I mean, how dare people make decisions how to spend their own money rather than the government? I mean, the government could be doing all kinds of useful things with that money. They could put more money into NDIS so that 25% of the population doesn't have to work anymore. They can just go, I've got a headache. I feel depressed today. I'm on the NDIS.
Yeah, it's good work if you can get it. I think you've mentioned that before to me. Like if you can get into one of these things, and you've got a protection racket behind you, like you can have a great life and. Yeah, you're set.
I'm a complete idiot. When I start a business, I think I've got to build my own business. I can't just suck off the government teat and get all kinds of subsidies. I mean, I am a complete idiot. I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't know, but at some point, things may change. I don't know. Like, look at Argentina at the moment. That place is imploding, and some libertarian crazy Bitcoin nut job might actually get in. Who knows?
Yeah, I saw that. Wow, wouldn't that be a turn up for the books? Libertarian in South America. That doesn't something weird about that.
When it's happened in the past, things turn around. People remember Chile. So I mean, things get a little bit. You go too far, and things go the opposite direction. So yeah. My salt for the week is the Queensland government is having a review into income limits on social housing. The thresholds haven't been changed since the mid-2000s. For a single person, the limit is $609 per week before tax, while a couple with 2 children is capped at $990 per week, which is less than $52,000 a year. I didn't think that was too bad, but I must be living in a clown world because this is clearly going to make things worse for the poorest people in society. There is no supply to increase the cap. This is insane. Stop playing games and do something major to lift supply or decrease demand. I just don't know why they're mucking around in this area when there's actually no supply to increase the cap. You're just going to make the situation worse for the poorest people in society. Like it's going to be harder for them to. If you're on 52 grand a year, you're better than somebody who's on 10 grand a year or no grand a year. So I don't know how they can think about.
Those caps you just mentioned, they're the old caps or they're the new ones?
Yeah, the old caps.
So the new ones, presumably for a family, will be what? Do you know what the proposed new caps are? They didn't say.
They didn't say. They're doing a review. So it could be like 70 or 80,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's pretty average, for a dual income type house. But still, like, when there's no supply, you can't be increasing the cap, and then it's impossible to get anything now. So,
well, maybe the threat by landlords to sell all their apartments because the rents are going to be capped and all this kind of stuff, and there'll be a flood of apartments, and the government could go buy them up at expensive prices because they've got no idea what to pay for them, and then they'll have more social housing for everybody, won't that? And that'll work out just perfectly in the socialist utopia.
Yeah, government flats again. That'd be housing commission, they used to call it. Not allowed to use that word anymore. That's like that's a bad word, housing commission.
Yeah.
Not allowed to, that's vernacular, that's been totally removed. It's the social housing now. So there's a reason why these had bad names in the past, like.
Well, it's not that the names were ever bad. It's just that people get bad associations with those names because they turn into shitholes. And so instead of actually addressing the problem, let's just change the name.
Yeah,
that'll fix it. Because changing the name will make it all different.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get on to a lot of macro stuff this week. Let's see if we can flick through it pretty quickly. Australian employment numbers came out. The unemployment rate skyrocketed, Tim, from 3.5 to 3.7%. As you can see, it was it was 3.7% in January, and then again in April, I think, and now it's 3.7% again for the month of July, I think that was. So people. But I'm making a prediction today, Tim. I'm going to go out there and make a prediction, which you should never do when it comes to economics, because you will probably be wrong. But I'm going to say that we saw the low last year when it got down to 3.4%.
Okay.
And that by the end of the year, it's going to hit 4. That's my prediction. It's going to hit 4 by the end of the year. That's going out on the limb.
Well, RBA, I know, ABS, I think 4.5 by next year sometime. So you do from where we are here to 4.5. That's a pretty straight up line. But we'll have to see.
Well, that's the NAIRU according to the RBA. Remember, the natural rate of unemployment. That's what they reckon. That's where you've got to get to get inflation under control. Okay, so the Fed minutes came out in the US, and most participants thought there could be require a further tightening of monetary policy, according to the minutes from the 25th, 26th policy meeting, which of course is nearly a month ago. So things might have changed. One of those things that might have changed is not that. Let me go back. One of the things that might have changed is in the United States, retail sales came out and they were up 1%. And they're only expected to be up about 0.3%. So again, the soft landing camp comes out and goes, see, nothing wrong, just nothing to see here. Consumer is running away. Of course, the Fed will be watching that. Remember the dot plot of the Fed? I think the average dot plot of the governors is about 5.5% anyway.
Yep.
So no surprises there that the market thinks the Fed's less hawkish than it is. That's been the general theme for about 18 months.
And good news is bad news again. We're going back to that. Retail sales go up, so that's bad news because we're not going to get cuts. So it's like trying to double think everything again. We're back to that narrative. So market sells off.
Absolutely. So clearly I've got all these slides out of order because I'm an idiot. But this was just the labour price index. So basically wage growth in Australia is sort of stagnating. You see a little, a little hook down. So, I mean, that's something, the employment number combined with the wages would signal to the RBA that, maybe we're done with raising rates. Going on there. So this is from Westpac's report that they put out. So you can see wage price index. That's what that is. It's not exactly skyrocketing. It's sort of topped out there in the high 3s, and it's not really going any higher. WA seems to be the exception there, but I mean, I don't think it's exactly running away, is it? Wages were never really out of control in Australia. I mean, in the United States, you had year-over-year wage rises of 6 and 7%, but here it never got really over 4. So it never was a big deal.
We just have real estate. Real estate's the inflation where we live in Australia, so
That's right. Asset price inflation, not wage inflation. China unexpectedly cut to support the sputtering economy. Now, it was a huge 0.15%. Now, I'm going to go out there and say I'm in favour of these surprise cuts, Tim. I mean, I pine for the days when Paul Volcker would raise interest rates on the weekend and then just on Monday he'd go bank deal with that, So, I mean, he was raising rates. China's cut rates because they're sputtering economy. And you and I have a difference of opinion here. I think, Tim, you're a glass is half full man on this, and I'm a glass is half empty. I think China is in real trouble. Yeah. They're not going back to even 4% growth anytime soon. It's all over for China.
Yeah. I'm in the opposite camp here. Like, I think, this is, once it gets started again, like, it's just going to power ahead again. But I could be wrong. But a 0.15, like, who does those sort of cuts or increases anymore? Like,
I know. What's the point?
Like, what are you doing? Like, you're basically telling the market, "Oh, we want to help you, but we're not going to do anything." So there's a few banks that are in huge trouble. Some of those shadow banks look terrible. Like, it's really diabolical in some areas. Some of those commercial banks, holy hell! Imagine holding some of that paper. But far out. Some people got some balls over there, but it's sinking. But I think it's healthy. Like, we went through the Asian crisis, and coming out of that, it was a fickin' bull out of that. Like, it was fickin' hardcore. Like, so I don't know who's going to take over, but we need somebody to lift the ball here. America is not going to increase GDP. Where's it going to come from? Japan?
India.
Come on. India, is it? Okay, right. Yeah.
No.
They're a bureaucracy hell over there. Like, they're worse than the Chinese. Like, the Chinese are at least capitalistic. Like, so I don't know. Where's the growth going to come from if we don't have China doing it? So, it's not going to be good if China's down. I can't see where world GDP is going to go to. So, it's not good. We need China to do well, and I want my free lunch in Australia, paying no taxes and getting everything for free. I want that to continue. So, yeah.
Okay. Just this macro business put this chart out. The China property starts again. To Tim, this looks like an opportunity. It's bottoming out to me. Maybe. I just don't think. I mean, I think there's going to be a rebound, obviously, but I just don't think it's going to be the China of old that we get.
That's a huge rebound there, but you moved from 09. Look at that. That's a doubling. Yeah. Like, when they go, like, those commies, they know how to frickin' print. Like, they really put it into production. They don't lock it up in banks and all this crap that the Americans do. These guys actually put it with cement and roads and infrastructure, ports. They get everybody frickin' digging holes, and like, it really does go into the economy. So, but they have got a bit of a debt problem if you look at some of their numbers. So, can they pull it off again? Yeah, it's debatable.
Yep. We to be continued. Biggest fall in Chinese property prices in 7 months. Again, Tim, he's just licking his lips, waiting to buy up those depressed property prices in China. Just more bad news. I think a couple of weeks ago I talked about China. We'd taken our eye off this one for a while, but I think they're in real trouble. Real trouble. Moving on. So ECRI, this is Laxman Achuthan. So he was on a Macro Business podcast, which we will not put in the show notes because we don't ever have show notes. So if you want to find it, you have to Google it yourself, you lazy pricks. So he was pointing out, so this graph looks pretty good, right? Personal consumption expenditures going up pretty strongly since the pandemic. Gross private domestic investment going down. His point with this graph was, this is what happens before recessions. You actually get a spike in consumption. You would intuitively you would think, well, you're going to see everything slowing down, but actually you get a spike in consumption and you get a pullback in gross domestic investment. So if you have a look at the chart, 07, 08, again, in the early 2000s, they all have that same kind of personal consumption expenditures jump, and private domestic investment is going down. So that's again, not saying it's the sure thing. These guys are pretty good though, got a good track record, and this is all they do. That's all they do is look at business cycles.
Yep.
Again, so we talked about this briefly the other week when
it's scary, this chart. Yeah, it scares the freaking hell out of me. Like when you look at it every time, it like, yeah.
Yes. So this is their own proprietary measure, right? This is not they pulled public data, but as he has talked about before in the past, if you look at temporary employment, temps, because that's where you're going to see, like, firstly, it's going to be temps, then it's going to be
casual.
Your normal employees get their hours cut back, and then you actually start losing jobs. So I think temp employment is now down 6% or so year over year, I think he said in this latest podcast. So yeah, that's just something to look at. As I said, these guys know this stuff inside and out, so they see these early signs. And employment growth, it should be said, is below average in the United States this year. It has been below average. Global PMI, pretty ordinary. I guess, two things you could say about that. Have a look in 2011-12.
Yes.
Pretty much it just went straight back up again. It was fine, so it doesn't necessarily mean everything's horrible. But with China going the way it is, you'd need China to turn around for that to turn around, I would think. Yep. It's not exactly, you're not exactly going to get strong PMIs coming out of Europe, I don't think, anytime soon. So, as you said, where's it going to come from?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Yeah,
so Japan, like crikey, like just nowhere. No one's willing to do the work anymore. So, yeah.
We all want to stay home, work from home, don't go anywhere, get everything delivered. No one actually does anything physically, right? Yeah. Oh, there's jobs out in the mines for $150,000. Yeah, bugger that. I'd have to actually walk around and drive a truck or something. No,
that's not for me. I'll stay at home. Yeah. So. Yep.
All right, so that's the end of that. Let's have a look at EPAM Systems. I mean, come on, Tim. Russia? You're kidding me?
Yeah. So basically, this is a high-quality IT service provider, sort of like Accenture that we looked at a few weeks ago. This stock's been doing well until Ukraine war, where they've got a whole heap of clients and staff in this area. Management has mitigated most of these risks, but it's still down 45% over the last 12 months. We look at the shares outstanding. It's increasing slightly, but not too bad for IT. Growth in employees is strong, but that's in line with revenues. Price to free cash flow, it hasn't been cheaper in the last 6 years, so that's good. Return on invested capital is average. Margins are average. Flip over to the balance sheet. We can see that they've got no debt and heaps of cash. Operational cash flow has bounced back to 2019 levels, and it's consistently growing. Yep. We flip over to the historical ratios. We can see it's low. Like, it is low. Like, you can see here it bounces up fairly high. So, if you're looking for multiple expansion, the valuation is as cheap as you're going to get it. So the bear case is, why not just buy Accenture? It's high quality. If there is a recession, IT growth will slow down. With the loss of Ukraine and Russia for employees, it's going to be hard to find staff at a great price. Yep. It's hard to sack or rehire high quality staff. The bull case is IT spend pays for itself, outsourcing will increase. For me, this type of business that requires high numbers of high quality staff is hard to be flexible. Yep. They really need to be eating into those shares outstanding with the cash on hand while the price is low, but management not doing that for some reason. Why not invest in Accenture? It's fairly cheap as well, but looks like EPAM's got more upside.
Right.
Yeah, so It's not a bad
What's
business.
their exposure? What's their exposure to Russia? Like, is that 10% of their business, or
Yeah, it was low, but the problem is when you've got a heap of your staff there as well. Like, you can't just rip out and find these. It's the staffing that's the most the problem. Like, how do you find these people? Like, there's only so many specialised IT people you can find that are super high quality. But if you're looking for a Accenture, like a poor man's Accenture, this is where you'd probably be looking. I just can't handle these high, staffing level type businesses. They're just very hard to turn on a dime. If the economy turns on you, you're really stuck. So, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a worry. Like you say, you can't cut them quick enough, and it's not like you can just cut everybody tomorrow. You've got to pay them out a certain amount as well. It's always a problem. I mean, you'd rather a business where they can just go, oh, okay, let's just stop the advertising spend,
that's right.
or whatever. It's easier to put the brakes on, rather than continuing to pay people and hoping that
things get better.
The downturn won't be so bad. The revenue will come back. And then once you've cut them, might be hard to get them back.
Yep. Yeah. But as you can see, this is the cheapest it's been. So, some of these people who like these type of businesses, not sure why they don't buy them, but I think this is a better deal than the other ones. But for me,
Accenture, how's it been performing?
Oh, it's been flat. Like it hasn't really jumped away. But at some point here, if the soft landing's on, it's gonna freaking roar. Like, this will roar more. Obviously, the multiple's gonna double, as you can see here. Easy. There's an easy double just in the multiple. That's just assuming the earnings don't go anywhere. Just the multiple's just gonna re-rate here. So if you really like it and you understand it, and you can. But they do add a huge amount of value. You can imagine if you're a big Fortune 500 company and you wanted to digitalize some part of your business or rationalize the business that you got now, this is the company you go to and go, hey, this is our systems. How could we streamline this? How could we improve it? How could we add efficiencies? How could we decrease our staffing levels, by putting in systems? And these guys add a ton of value. That's why they could charge what they charge, but as you can see, not much of it actually drops through onto the margins. Like,
let's get back to that. Gross 30s and operating, it's not great, is it?
No, so not much is actually dropping through to the bottom. So that's what happens when you've got these high staffing levels of super high quality staff. You can't, not much is actually throwing through to the poor old shareholder, but it's such a great business. You are doing well, but you think with them hiring more of the Eastern Bloc type, I would assume these operating margins would improve, but I can see that only going one direction currently if they have to hire outside the Eastern Bloc at the moment. Still a good company. I wouldn't be ashamed to hold it. It's just, I think I can see better. I've now got my top tiers now. Tier 1, Tier 2 and Tier 3, and this doesn't even make it into Tier 3. So trying to stick to quality and hold on to it and don't do anything. So just hope to get an opportunity. A couple of them are coming up that I should have purchased, and that's why I'm doing this now. I'm doing my price to free cash flows, and I need a discipline. I haven't got the psychology part down to actually purchase when I should be purchasing, so I need some guidelines. So anybody out there want to have a look at my watch list and send me a message and I'll show you and tell me what you think. If I'm too harsh, too light on the purchase tranches, let me know.
There you go. So there's one there's the poor man's version of Accenture. Thanks for bringing that this week, Tim. And we will see you next time.